They call Troy Ball the Moonshine Mom. She moved to North Carolina for her children's health, she said, and then she really got into, how shall we say, the spirit of her new community. Lee Woodruff has her story coming up next on CBS This Morning.
It's been 79 years since Prohibition ended, but the manufacture and sale of moonshine whiskey is still against the law.
Of course, that has never stopped people from making it in Charlie's home state. That would be North Carolina. But Lee Woodruff reports that everything changed there when a woman wanted to get into the business.
Here in the heart of North Carolina's Appalachian Mountains, the tradition of running moonshine, whiskey made under the shine of the moon, was born.
It is 500 miles from the sands of Daytona Beach to the Carolina Hill Country.
What local moonshiners like legendary Junior Johnson learned out running the law,
This is a raid on a moonshine still.
men like him applied to another all-boys club, auto racing.
It's definitely a man's world.
Troy Ball is one of the first women to break into that man's world.
And how did it feel for you to join the pack?
It felt great.
Troy is the owner-operator of Troy & Sons, one of 4 female-owned distilleries in the country.
Was it easier to cozy up to the moonshiners as a woman?
It was definitely easier. They like women. That's a good thing. But it still was difficult because they don't really trust outsiders.
Troy moved her family to the mountains of western North Carolina 8 years ago after her 2 oldest sons were diagnosed with a rare metabolic disorder.
We brought them here to try to keep them alive. And when you buy land in the mountains and you get to know the locals, if they like you, they bring you moonshine.
Jerry Rogers was one of those locals.
Nobody else has got the patent on this.
Jerry ran moonshine back in high school.
I told you how I done it, I'd have to shoot you.
Did you ever run moonshine again? You don't have to answer that one, Jerry.
No.
But Jerry did give Troy her first taste of the good stuff. And Troy, who hadn't worked outside the home in years, set out to make her own.
I had to be a full-time mom. That was 24 hours a day. So I had to kind of say, Troy, it's okay. You know, your time will come and it'll come later in your life. I just knew that by the time I was in my 40s. And so when I ran across this idea of making a great white American spirit, I knew my time had come.
I couldn't figure for the life of me why she would need 100 pounds of corn.
John McIntyre's family has farmed the same seed of white heirloom corn in Crooked Creek, North Carolina for 6 generations.
And I said, John, you got all these old barns and you got the mill. How about if we did some test fermentations out here? And he says, lady, I don't want to get arrested.
Prohibition may have been repealed in 1933, but to this day, it's illegal to distill any spirit without a license. So Troy broke with moonshining tradition and got herself a legal permit to make and distribute moonshine whiskey.
We'll fill the mash tank with water to about here.
At 180 degrees, the starches in the corn convert to sugar and become what's known as mash.
So here, help me open this.
Okay.
The mash and the yeast ferment for 5 days.
And on the 7th day, we make perfect spirits.
This is 184 proof, which is 92% alcohol.
Wow.
So
Troy's husband, Charlie, runs the still. Her youngest son, Trevor, helps out on the assembly line. Doctors warned Troy her 2 oldest sons wouldn't live past 10 years old. They're now 23 and 25.
Well, who's ahead now?
Not one to get left behind. The moonshine runner who inspired Bruce Springsteen's Ode to Cadillacs is back in the game with his very own Midnight Moon.
Lots of people, when they see it, you know, are like, moonshine? You offer that?
Moonshine margaritas, mojitos, cosmopolitans. Once run out of town, the great American spirit finally has a seat at the bar.
You like it?
I love it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So Lee Woodruff joins us.
It was a tough shoot. Someone had to do it. Yeah.
Beautiful country, isn't it?
It's where you're from. They all had messages for you. Everywhere I went, tell them we said hi, we love the show. It was great.
What did it taste like? A moonshine? I have this impression of moonshine as being, oh, it'll, you know.
Well, I'm
burn
not
fire.
I was not. Yes, and what was interesting about this is very high-end liquor. So I learned there are heads, hearts, and tails. And in a lot of mass-produced stuff, you don't take off
the heads or the tails necessarily. You do one. Because they do this by hand, they take both ends off, so you're left with the heart, which is a really smooth, easy, and as Troy says, no hangover liquor.
There was an audible reaction when he said 184 proof. See, I don't drink, so I don't know what this means. What's a normal proof? Because when he said 184, everybody went, whoa.
Yeah.
What is a normal?
All I knew is that 100 is, good. So 184, I don't know a lot about the proof either, but I knew that sounded like maybe that was, you want that in moderation, I'm thinking, Gail. Yeah.
Lee, I'm thinking you know a little bit more about the proof than when you started.
Well,
it looked like you were having a good time knocking back a few.
Let me tell you something, girlfriend. Look what I've got. Look what North Carolina sent you.
Hey.
Troy said, I got to send this to our man Charlie. So you got your own
Thank you, Troy.
white whiskey.
And by the way, Troy, I do like your accent.
Yeah.
I love it. I love a Southern accent. Jerry in your piece said, if I told you how I'd done it, I'd have to kill you. I like that.
He was a character.
Like
he
that.
took us back in his little shed, but I can't talk about it.
Nicely done.
Well, we don't want you going anywhere.
Thank
so
you.
don't tell us.
Charlie, will you be able to stay for the rest of the hour?
Yes, I'll be here.
Okay, good. I don't know what proof does to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lee.